Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to my podcast. This is Life's Easy with E, and I am Easy E. For those who aren't familiar with the Easy E thing, I think I said it last week when I was much younger. I used to listen to a lot of gangster rap, and I had a passing similarity to a rapper named Easy E, so people started calling me Easy E. Today's episode we'll call The Journey Begins. And what I'm going to be discussing today will be the first discovery that I had kidney disease, chronic kidney disease, and some of the symptoms that I may or may not have had, and some of the adjustments that I've had. So there'll be really five questions that I'll be hitting during this conversation today. Excuse me. Question number one is going to be how did I feel physically, and what symptoms did I have, if any, before and during the kidney disease. Question two: how was my mentality after the diagnosis? The third question that I'll be hitting it will be how was the adjustment from my life before kidney disease to just knowing that I had kidney failure to actually starting dialysis. So that one will be a little more complicated. Number four is going to be what was the biggest change I had to make? And that one was actually pretty simple, the change that I had to make. And five, what do I wish someone would have told me, back then versus what I know now? And that was actually going to be kind of simple too. So let's go ahead and get started on this day. As I'm recording, I am a little bit removed from my dialysis treatment. And let me go ahead and tell you, I had a really good treatment because I've been trying to tighten up on some diet issues that I had, and I've been trying to tighten up on fluid. Anybody on dialysis know what I'm talking about. You got to watch that fluid. I am on a fluid restriction, so I'm supposed to drink 32 ounces or less a day. And to give you an idea, I wish I had that cup out here, but if you go down to your local convenience store and grab your big gulp, I have to drink less fluid than that in a day. Some people drink that on the way to filling up their cars. So I, uh, it's been tough, but I try. So I want to go ahead and get into this story. Get into this episode today. It really was um well, it was a shock. Let me be fair. It was a shock. Back in 2015, I was just a single dad working three jobs trying to support his children, the children that I had in the house and even the children that were out of the house. And it was a summer afternoon. I was working at a convenience store here in Columbia, South Carolina, and I get a call around 3 p.m. that day, if I remember correctly. The day that I got the call, excuse me, the day I got the call was June 9th of 2015. It was, of course, in South Carolina, it's a hot day. I pick up the phone. It was my doctor giving me a call. Excuse me, no, I am mistaken. June 9th was my doctor's appointment. I had went to a doctor's appointment, a physical actually. So you do the physical, they do the EKG, they drew the blood work. So I didn't think anything of it. It was June 12th that I got the phone call from my primary care physician, and excuse me, I got the call from my physician. He asked me what was I doing at the time. I tell him, I says, I'm working. I'm, you know, uh, got to support myself, got to support my children. He says, well, based on your blood work, and I'm not a nephrologist, but if I had to make a guess, it looks like your kidney function is 14%. And he's telling me, asking me about certain ailments that I had, um, certain feelings that I might have been having in my hands and my feet due to swelling. He was asking me, about my brain. He was asking me all kind of things. So, you know, to make a long story short, I ended up going to the emergency room, and They were like, "Yes, Mr. Q. It looks like. I mean, we're going to have to do some some other testing and maybe some ultrasounds and or some MRIs, but it does look like you're in kidney disease." So one of the things that the doctor gave asked me during the phone call, he says, "Have you been feeling tired? You know, lately? Do you have dry, itchy skin or anything like that?" And so I tell us, well, yeah, I'm tired all the time, but I was actually working three jobs. So I kind of felt like that was probably the issue because, when you're working back to back, and I've had days where I worked all three jobs, back to back to back. So I just assumed it was that. So I didn't think nothing of it. But it was this next question that made me realize, basically stop in my tracks. He says, when you breathe, especially when you exhale, do you have a shortness of breath, or when you exhale, do you taste metal or ammonia? And that shocked me because like, yeah, in fact, doc, I do. At the time, I was just thinking to myself that because I was on a heavy dose of medication due to congestive heart failure, which is another diagnosis I used to have. I thought it was just coming from all the pills. And I had been told that sometimes when you take a lot of medicine, you'll have a funny taste. But when he said that, I decided, I says, well, I better go check this out. So I called the manager. Of course, she wasn't really understanding because it's one of those convenience stores where you're there, alone. But I told her, I says, either you're gonna have to come in here because I'm knocking the doors. I'm going to the emergency room. And there, when I got to the emergency room, we didn't know, but I'd be there for the next few days. Uh, excuse me. And that was my first diagnosis of chronic kidney disease. And by the time I got to this point, I was already in level fives. This is basically you're going to dialysis. They're actually going to tell you you have end stage renal disease, which I'll explain that in the future. But just understand the word end stage. That's pretty much all you need to know. Um, from that point, my life took I want to say a drastic turn because after I was diagnosed and, spoke to a nephrologist and the staff at the hospital, my mentality really took a turn because, and that's the reason why I'm here today, because there's so much stuff out there about diagnosis and kidney disease. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, most of it's wrong. uh, because what people tend to see is the bad part of the disease, which, like with most ailments, you always see the bad, and people really talk about the bad. Uh, and I was the same way. I didn't know much about it, even though my father had been on dialysis. My grandfather had been on dialysis, um, and and a father-in-law had been on. I had been around a lot of people with dialysis, and you always hear the same stories. They feel so bad. The needles hurt when they go in. You get sick, you get nauseous, and all of that is true. But we're going to put an asterisk in there because it's true if you're not taking care of yourself. Now, it's kind of hard to get around those needles because anybody in the nursing field or anybody who's been to the doctor well enough to know just a needle prick isn't something that you'll likely forget. And those are usually really small needles, 30 gauge. The way it works with needles is the smaller the number, the bigger the needle. So when you're getting an IV in the hospital, they're drawing blood, they use a 31, maybe 32 gauge needle. That makes people flinch. So the needles that I currently use for dialysis, 14 gauge, which means they're about 2 to 2.5 times the size of your regular needle. That's like getting poked with an upholstery needle, if you know anything about upholstery. So, this happens 3 times a week, but it is what I have to go through to get through life. So I'm already in the doldrums because I'm being told that I have kidney disease. I have a social worker telling me that I'm going to have to quit working. I have people telling me how tired I'm going to be, how sick I'm going to be. I'm just not going to be able to function. If I'm not careful, I'm going to lose my leg. I mean, it just went on and on and on. And if, yeah, for about a year after I started my dialysis treatments, and I started home dialysis, another story on that later. I started home dialysis, and even though I didn't have a clinical tag that I was in a depressive mode, I was depressed. I know I was depressed, and I didn't see any way out of it until, basically I just took control. But that was my mental disposition, after I was diagnosed. Now, going past that, I did have to make some adjustments because, again, um, chronic kidney disease is not one of those things where, like a cold, you get a little sick, you get a little stuff, you might even feel bad, and then a couple days you're good. This thing never stops. And regardless of what people will tell you, that you can drink this and your kidneys are healed, you can take that, your kidneys are healed, things of that nature. There's only really two ways around chronic kidney disease. You can just keep your body healthy, watch your fluid, eat right, and live and try to live the best you can, or a kidney transplant. I won't be talking much about a kidney transplant because I've not had one. And to be honest with you, it's not likely that I get one, but I don't let that bother me. I just keep it moving. In the future, I'll be having guests on who have had transplants. They can tell you what to look for, how it goes. In fact, specifically, I know two people that have had transplants. And so their addition to the show will be crucial to those who may be on UNOS and looking for a kidney. But that was, just the thought that I'm going to have to go to dialysis. And at that time, I was doing it every day. So this definitely was a big adjustment for my regular life. Even now, going 3 times a week, I have to fit my life around the dialysis because, folks, never forget, dialysis is the most important thing in your life. It's what you should think about every day, including your 9 days. But when you're on, you definitely should be thinking about that. You should tailor your diet so that your treatments go well. You should definitely try to keep a log of your fluid intake if you just can't, do it for yourself. Uh, Getting up and going to treatment once I had to go because I don't drive, so you have to have transportation. And if you still work like I do, you're not eligible for Medicaid. You can't get the free transportation. You got to figure that thing out. So that was another adjustment. How do I get to dialysis? How do I get from dialysis? Uh, can you eat? They tell you at the clinic you should eat for the simple reason when you're eating, your body has to draw resources, meaning blood, nutrients, to try to digest that food. At the same time, these same nutrients are being drained out of you through the external machine. So that could cause some complications. People have actually passed out from it. Normally, me, if I eat on the machine, I'm going to get sick. So I don't. I usually try to eat, if I'm going to eat at all, eat a few hours before dialysis. So nothing during dialysis and usually something after it. So I had to adjust my meal schedule. I had to adjust how I eat because I can't say that I ate very healthy, back then. Um, and to be honest with you, some days I slip off. I'm currently dealing with some dietary issues now, in fact, because, well, we're human. Uh, and then having to deal with work in dialysis because I'm still relatively young. So, I still work. I work 4 days a week, approximately 40 hours a week. So I have to I had to get my work schedule readjusted so I can get to and from dialysis. There's quite a few adjustments, and I'm still adjusting to dialysis because uh, where I work from time to time, the schedule changes. But I have to let them know, look, I can't do this because I have to go to dialysis, and it's just that's the way. Like they say in the Lucas franchise, this is the way. So that was some of the adjustments that I had to deal with. Excuse me. Another big change that I had to make, and this is where I was alluding to with my question number 4, what was the biggest change I had to make? Fluid. Fluid. Let me explain. Most of most of our kidney disease patients lose some sort of kidney function. The primary cause of the primary function you lose is that your kidneys can't filter the toxins and things out of your blood. So that's the reason why they tell us you should eat this, you can't eat that. Things that normally would make a normal person healthy, wealthy, and wise will kill a chronic kidney disease patient. You have people telling you need to eat more bananas. Well, see, with us, potassium is an issue because your kidneys can't filter it. You can only get so much out of dialysis, so the rest of it lingers in your body. With a normal person, they just, they were urinated out. Everything, keeps going. Uh, it doesn't work like that with us. What happened with us is we'll build that potassium up in our system, and it starts to affect our hearts. Too much potassium, folks, will cause you to have a heart attack. So, if you're out there and you don't have kidney disease, but you're trying to get some information, please don't go tell a person, eat this, eat that, because what you're trying to do is kill them, folks. So, we thank you for your kindness and your patience, but we don't need your help. That's why we have nephrologists and doctors to help us. So, but the biggest change that I had to make was fluid. In other words, I was used to basically guzzling, just drinking whatever, whenever, however, wherever. And I had to, over time, learn how to control my urges and my cravings. You almost live in a state of dehydration because, like I was saying earlier, you can only drink 32 ounces of fluid a day or less. Those that still urinate, now they can drink a little bit more, but you lose some sort of function mostly. So, but people like myself, I make no urine whatsoever. So if I drink this today, it will be in my system till I get back to dialysis. I need you guys to think about that for a moment, those who don't have chronic kidney disease. Unless I just happen to sweat it out, it's going to stay with me. So I have to be conscious of the amount of fluid that I drink in a day. So when I take my pills, sometimes I don't drink any fluid at all to take my pills. When I eat, I try to measure it out to 8 ounces. I try to drink very little in between my meals. When I go to the gym, I don't drink at all because again, you sweat, but you don't sweat out what you put in. That's what urination is for. So you have to be mindful and conscious. So the biggest change that I had to make was how to moderate my fluid. Um, what are the One of the questions that I had that I was going to address today was, what do I wish someone would have told me back then that I know now? And for me, I wish I knew about moderating your blood pressure because I was young, I was invincible, I could eat still, past nails. I mean, I was the man. Superman had nothing on me. And then I wake up in the hospital and I'm told that my kidney function is 12%. So I'm like, okay, this is not good. The reason why I mentioned that is because there are a lot of people walking around out there with hypertension. I looked at a study. I didn't think it was important that I needed to know for this. Now I wish I'd retained that information. But the reason why I bring it to attention is because hypertension is the second leading cause of chronic kidney disease. Of course, diabetes being the first, but chronic kidney disease is the second leading cause of it. In fact, 1 in 7 Americans, from a study that I just recently read, 1 in 7 Americans with chronic kidney disease developed it from hypertension. So, a lot of people telling you out there, "Hey, don't drink too many sodas, don't eat this, no, got nothing to do with it. You pretty much, if your kidneys are functioning healthy, pretty much any liquid is going to be okay. If you have diabetes, well, that's a little bit different. But if you don't have diabetes, hey, drinking sodas, that don't mean nothing. Okay. Now, if you do have chronic kidney disease, yeah, sodas could be a detriment because of all the high phosphorus and the dark colas and things of that nature. But that's another issue, another time. But yeah, I wish I would have been told back then, about I wish I'd have been told back then about controlling your blood pressure, taking those pills, checking your blood pressure. Now, of course, I take blood pressure pills, but they're for hypotension. In other words, once your kidneys stop functioning correctly, now it's harder to moderate your blood pressure. So now I went from hypertensive to hypotensive, which means high blood pressure to low blood pressure, and I have to take pills for that. But yeah, that would have been one of the things that I would have been more conscious of and wish I would have been more cognizant of. Control your blood pressure. So though that little bit of information that I put out today was, my beginnings into this journey that we call chronic kidney disease. And, it's far more complicated than I'm putting out here, but over time, I'll be giving you other tidbits and some of the stuff that I went through. You can't wait till I get to the episode of calciphylaxis, guys. So, those were just that was basically the beginning of my journey. So, in recap, it goes something like this. How was I feeling physically? I was tired all the time. Um, one thing I didn't really address during all this was some of the symptoms that you might that encounter. I kind of blew through that part. Those people out there watching this who may be having some issues, and you're seeing it for, well, if you're not seeing a nephrologist, but you're having some issues, some of the things you might want to look for, and these were some of the things that the doctor was asking me. He asked me, he asked me, was I fatigued? And of course, I was fatigued. I was working 3 jobs trying to take care of children, so uh, I didn't think anything of it. He asked me about swelling, especially in my legs, ankles, feet, face, hands. And at the time, I didn't really have any swelling because honestly, I was still urinating pretty good. So it didn't dawn on me. He asked me about shortness of breath, which I had, but again, I have asthma. I didn't think of anything of it. He asked me, about nausea and vomiting. I didn't have anything. One of the things I don't remember him asking, but I wish I would have been cognizant of or thinking about. He, I would soon learn that another symptom of chronic kidney disease, or at least the onset, is changes in urination. And I didn't know it at the time, but because usually with chronic kidney disease, sometimes you get an increase of urination. Most of the time it decreases. You have foamy urine, or you might even have difficulty because you may be building up proteins and it's blocking off your urethra. These are some of the things that you might want to look for. If you're starting to, or if you're thinking you might have, kidney issues, again, fatigue, change in urination, swelling, shortness of breath. For me, one of the things that I had noticed after I started going dialysis, when I was still urinating, is I would have very foamy urine. I mean, you look down and you think you were actually passing beer. It'd be kind of brownish and it'd be really foamy, but that's because I was spilling protein. I had no earthly idea because again, the information is just not out there, folks. And that's the reason why I'm kind of trying to do this thing for people like myself and for people who like become like myself, or for somebody who just wants to know. That's what I'm here for. I'm trying to be a resource for the people. I want to be the voice for the voiceless, because there are people out there talking all day about this thing and they don't know anything. So take it from a person that gets stuck 3 times a week. This thing could be rough, but if you make some adjustments, you make some changes, you choose your diet, and you watch that fluid, you will be all right. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Eric Q, affectionately known as Easy E. And today, honestly, is a work day for me. So I'm going to wrap this thing up, get myself together, and head on to the job because, yes, I still work for a living. And we'll talk about that one day, too. If you have questions or, comments, concerns, you can drop me a line at the Facebook. Just inbox me. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I'm on my Facebook, Eric Q. I can answer questions in the comment section if you wish. We're working on an email address, guys, to get out there to you as well. Hopefully, I have that up and going in the next podcast or two. So again, my name is Easy E. This has been Life with Easy E, And I thank you all. Goodbye.